Sound on YouTube. Testing 1, 2. Monty, is the sound on now? It appears that we had no sound for a moment. Testing 1, 2. Let's pull the chat room and you guys will let me know if the sound is on. It should be on by now. Sound is now on. Well then, welcome to Tales from the Pit, episode number 5. Sorry there was no audio for the first moment or so. So today is more like it's kind of like we're having a day off here, right? It's not our average type of day. We've got a major holiday weekend coming, 3-day holiday weekend. Markets are closed for Memorial Day on Monday. So trading-wise, it's not your average day. And the markets sure have exploded. They literally have caught right on to that juncture area that we discussed, right? Look at this very interesting juncture, the perfect spot for them to come in and fix the debt ceiling. Well, all of that seems to be happening. If you look at my board, we're up 52 in the S&P, 53 practically, up 350 in NASDAQ. So when we do get back to markets next week, it's going to be exciting. But for this episode, I did promise that I would mention or at least finish the tales of the things that happened leading me up to my 18th birthday and hitting the trading floor. And one of those things I mentioned was that there was an actual, a really tragic day that took place on the exchange. I'm going to the exchange. My head's always in the exchange. That took place on my last day of high school. Graduation day, last day of high school. It's supposed to be a really happy day, especially if you graduated, for most of us, right? This was not the happiest day of my life, I can tell you that much. It ended on a really bad note and just stayed that way for quite some time. A real tragedy. One of our friends, a whole 9 yards. Really bad day. But before I tell you about my last day of high school, one of the things that we didn't mention, people have asked me, Oscar, you stay up and you work all these night markets and you're up all night and then you're up during the day and you're always helping people for free. I get in more trouble from the staff around me. I have for the last 15 years. Why don't you charge more? You do everything for free. You don't charge for the room. You don't charge for this. You don't charge for that. You give free advice. You're always out there, free videos. So I've been broken like this my entire life. I don't know why I kind of force myself to do this, but I enjoy every minute of helping the traders around the world. There is, if I want to relate it back, I think there is this. Does anybody know of the ASPCA, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals? And in fact, let me pull that chat room out because you guys are typing, but I'm not seeing it. So let me pop out the chat and put it over here. There we go. All right. So, does anybody remember something called the ASPCA, the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals? They were the dog catchers. If you're my age, you remember them, called the dog catchers when we were young. They would basically go around town looking for stray dogs and cats and bring them to a place called the ASPCA, where then you could go adopt these dogs for $9 when I was a kid. $9 you get papers, a dog, a rope leash, and they get a tag stating that it is your dog. $9. Now, $9 isn't a lot of money, but it is when you're a little kid with 2 paper routes. And you go all over town delivering. Actually, I had 3 paper routes in the end. You go all around town delivering papers for a week. And when you finally get paid, you take that money and adopt a dog or a cat. And I'll explain why. I lived about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I lived about 8 blocks away from the ASPCA, young kid. The ASPCA goes out and catches dogs and cats all week long. Right, they go all over the neighborhood, they catch dogs and cats, and they bring them to a building called the ASPCA's building, and they put them in cages, and they hope they get adopted during the week. Someone like me or you can walk in for $9. You can adopt a dog or a cat and bring it home and give it a new life. You can save an animal. And here's what would happen on Friday nights. If you did not adopt these dogs or cats by Friday night, on Friday night, you would hear this loud screaming sound coming from dozens of dogs and cats. You'd hear it scream and scream and then muffle, and it would stop. And what it would turn out was that they would take these dogs and cats and put them in this absorption chamber where it removes the oxygen out of the chamber. And you hear these poor dogs and cats scream at the top of their lungs until they die because no one adopted them. And I can't live with this. I cannot live with this. So covering your ears doesn't work. I used to take my paper out. I used to get paid exactly $9. What was $11? I used to get paid $11 per week per route. I had 3 routes. I would take my checks at the end of each week. I would go down to the ASPCA and I would adopt either 2 dogs or 2 dogs and a cat or 3 dogs. I would bring them to the swamps on Staten Island, which was a big open area where animals sort of roamed, and I would turn them loose. And I would say, even if you live 24 more hours, it's got to be better than the fate that was looking at you on Friday night. I could not lay in bed and listen to this. So almost every Friday or every other Friday, I would go and adopt dogs or cats and just turn them loose in the swamplands, hoping at least they get 24 more hours. Maybe they get a whole nother life. It's kind of been my way since I'm a little kid. I stumbled upon this trading thing, and the next thing you know, years later, that I'm so advanced in analysis, and instead of just hiding it for myself or being greedy and just trying to make money or sell it for zillions of dollars, instead, I have used it to help others around the world who I can hear screaming when their accounts go to zero and they owe a check to their clearing firms. So I've been putting out free content, free knowledge, helping traders around the world. The same way I used to help dogs and cats when I was a little kid with my paper routes. And for me, I feel like I'm making a dent on this planet. People will know I was here. I have helped people all over the world. I've got books and books and books. I'm talking stacks of books like this that are full of people writing to me to tell me about the great things that OMNI has done for them and the way I've changed their lives and helped their families. Now, there are crazy people on the internet who bash you as well. Okay, that's just part of the internet. This is what I live for. I live for these stories. The people that I know I am helping, they're the ones that I live for. I will do this every day for the rest of my life if I could leave a little dent on this planet before I'm gone. So, takes me to, so I guess being a little kid and being the type of kid that would go around and work a paper route all week long just to adopt dogs and cats made me the same person today that needs to help people around the world. I have to. I feel in some strange way that through all the work I've done and everything that's happened and the trade centers and everything that's gone through my life, it's like I've been given a little bit of a gift by God, a little bit of a leg up with this OMNI. And if I help people around the world with this OMNI and I don't keep it for myself, I think that I'm paying it forward and I get to live the life I live because I spend my life helping you guys. So whatever that amounts to be, you know what I mean? I don't know what to call it, but I'm just in this loop and I appreciate being here and I appreciate helping you guys. So anyway, that was one of the things that I didn't realize was when I was a kid, I was molding myself towards this business, being able to help another entity and not want anything in return. And me staying up all night long, reading books till my father would knock on the door at 3:34 in the morning in my bedroom. Oscar, you gotta go. Michael, at the time, it wasn't Oscar. Michael, you've got to go to bed. It's 4:30 in the morning. Why are you awake? Dad, when you sleep, you lose those hours. You never get them back. Why do people sleep? I don't understand. You wasted all that time. Once you go to sleep, the hours are gone. It was one of those kids. He'd be like, no, you've got to get rest. Your brain's got to heal. Your body's got to heal. But I would stay up all night, as late as I could, sometimes almost till the sun came up. And I'd fall asleep for a little while and get up for school. Well, I didn't know I was going to be training for the night markets. I mean, what a perfect way to mold myself for what I do for a living today. I love being up at night, just like I did when I was a kid. There weren't night markets when I was training myself to be someone that would stay up for night markets. But I grow up and night markets are what they are. And it was a perfect training for me as a kid. So imagine that. Who knew that my dad yelling at me to tell me to go to sleep was me training for the business I'd be in many years later? So, Just wanted to, get that out. A reason, one of the things, just one of the things that have always been on my mind. I think I help people today the way I do because of what I did with the dogs and cats. Anyway, that was kind of great time back then. Got to save a lot of them. Some of them got hit by cars in the end or recaught by the dog catcher. Some of them I actually saved twice in the same month. There was one of them with a black spot. I knew it was him when I seen him again. I said, wait a minute, didn't I just save him last Friday? So I saved him again, because who wouldn't do that? My dad, he used to let me bring dogs home. Sometimes we'd have 5, 6 dogs at a time. My dad was so good about that. He understood where I was going with this, you know what I mean? He'd let me bring some animals home. Anyway, so lots of really interesting things have happened throughout these stories I've been telling you in my junior high school years and working with the mafia and all the crazy stuff I did with them and them wanting to keep me, but turning 18, there's just no way I'm going to let that happen. Well, as I'm turning 18, reaching our last couple of weeks in high school, it's exciting. Everyone's getting ready to get out of high school, and the plans start getting made. What are we going to do? The big parties, all this great stuff that's going on. Now, I wasn't allowed to walk in graduation or any of that stuff. But that doesn't mean I'm not part of the crowd. I'm able to hang out with my buddies and be there at school and all that. I just can't be part of the ceremonies. So we're getting towards the last day of school, and we go down to Seaside Heights for a day, and everybody jumps in my buddy's car, and he's the only driver because none of us are old enough yet, or me. I had my own car too, but I didn't drive that day. And we take off to Atlantic City. No, not Atlantic City. We go to I think the first place we went to was Seaside Heights. The whole high school, as many kids as could go. And then the next day, the last week of school. And then Tuesday, we go to another beach. It's all week long. And we're getting towards, I think Friday was my last day of school. And I've told you many times, I come from a really bad neighborhood. Drugs like crazy. I mean, drugs, fights, jail, you name it. Just bad. I had some really bad friends that would do some crazy things with drugs and other stuff and fights and you name it. One of them was a my brother Joey. Love my brother Joey. My brother Joey's best friend for life, Stephen Palumbo. Friends like this, my brother's got his name tattooed on his arm. These guys are. There's no connection as strong as these two. And my neighborhood used to do a lot of crazy things, and one of the things that caught everyone's attention back then was the Doors. A lot of people liked the Doors. And one of the stupid, ridiculous things that would happen in my neighborhood is people would try to do enough drugs to break on through to the other side and see what was there. Yes, you heard that correctly. Let's purposely do enough drugs to break on through to the other side and see what Jim Morrison's talking about. I know, it's about as screwed up as it sounds. This stuff used to happen. So it's my last day of high school. My brother Joey's friend Steven and the older guys are hanging around high school, and they know it's our last day. And I'm waiting for my brother Joey to show up, and we're all going to have a big party at the park. And Stephen Palumbo shows up, and he comes by the school, and we're hanging out for a little while, and we smoke a little, and he's got a beer with him, and what the hell, it's our last day, so we drink the beer. That's right, I am the Lizard King, I can do anything. Well, break on through to the other side was basically about suicide, if you ask me. And these people were trying to get there without actually dying. So my buddy Steven, we're hanging out, and a bunch of other people start to come around, and Steven says, come on, where's your brother Joey? Well, I want to take him somewhere. So where do you want to take him? He goes, me and Joey are going to break on through to the other side today. This is my brother Joey, my bigger brother. We're going to break on through to the other side. I said, what the hell does that mean? He goes, I got this bottle from this park, methadone park, needle park they used to call it. He gets a bottle of methadone. He shakes it up, and he says, I'm going to drink half, and your brother's going to drink half, and we're going to try to break on through to the other side. And I went, Stephen, we're not taking my brother anywhere with you. I will save his life before I'll let him go. Give me that shit. I'll drink the other side. You ain't not giving that to my brother. With that, he takes a big gulp out of this bottle. Big gulp. The bottle was about this big. Drinks more than half, hands it to me, and I'm terrified. It's nothing I've ever done, nor what I want to do, but I want my brother to die. And I take this stuff and I sip some, and there's still more left, and I'm afraid to do the rest, and I hand it to him, and he downs the bottle, and everything seems to be fine. 5 minutes later, come on, let's go get Heroes. We walk down the street, we buy these Heroes, sausage and pepper Heroes. We come back and sit on a park bench right by the school. As we start eating the Heroes, I'm already getting, I don't know, boy, am I getting knocked off my socks, but I only took a little. I was afraid. He starts getting weird and his head starts moving, and we're eating a sandwich, and as he's eating the sandwich, he falls on the bench, lays down, and he starts choking on what's in his mouth. And I'm punching him. Come on, Steve, stop. I make him cough it up, and he's okay. He sits back up, starts eating the sandwich again. I said, listen, man, we got to get out of here. I don't feel right. You're screwed up. Let's get away from this school. Let's go to the old neighborhood. We'll go to the park where we know everybody. So somehow we make it down to the bus stop in St. George. We get on the bus. We get into Rosebank. I must have woken him up 10 times on the bus. Hit him. Get up. Don't fall asleep. Now I'm afraid for him. We get off the bus. We get into the park. He sits down on the bench next to me, and he starts to fall over. And I wake him up. Steven, come on, get up, man. Now I'm all screwed up myself, and I am young, and I am afraid for both of us, and I don't know what is going on, but you ain't killing my brother Joey. That's all I'm thinking. You ain't killing him. So I start getting more zonked, and this kid starts going into convulsions. His eyes start flickering. He lays back on the bench, and he starts to go. And I'm going, oh my God, and I'm mouth to mouth, and I'm punching his chest, and I'm waking him up, and he wakes back up again. And I shake him, and now I am in a total effing panic. Oh my God, what am I supposed to do? We're in a park by ourselves. I'm with my older brother. Whatever he took, they're going to blame me for giving it to him. Oh my God, he's overdosing. What do? I run as quick as I can to the end of the park, payphone, call the payphone. I call my brother Joey. Joey, you got to understand what happened. Please come get us. Him and 20 people come running in the park at that point. They see him overdosing. Everybody doing what they can. They drag him out of the park into the backseat of a car, whisk him to a hospital. I'm as screwed up as the day is long, but I'm on my feet. I'm still okay. And we get him into the hospital. They rush him in. Nobody really, my brother protects me completely. Never says a word about me being there. I'm the little kid that shouldn't be there to begin with. And you know they're going to blame me. He never says a word about me. He just pushes me off to the side and says, don't say nothing. You weren't there. You weren't with him. You weren't nothing. This guy does stuff like this all the time. You can't take the blame for it. I'm like, I don't know what to do, Joey, but we love him. Anyway, this was Curtis High School in St. George, Staten Island. You remember? Shit, you remember that. So, Rob, you must remember this story. You got to remember this story. So, Steven's overdosing in the park, and they rush him to the hospital, and I don't see him again for about 11 hours. And my brain's still all screwed up, but I come back down, and I get to the hospital, and there he is, in a coma, laid out. No one can get a word out of this kid. The doctors can't get a move out of him. I walk in, I grab him and go, Steven, what happened? And the first time he makes a move, he tries to get out of the bed. He's like moaning and screaming and trying to rip stuff out, and he goes back into coma. And I don't think we ever seen him speak another word again. We used to go visit Steven all the time. They cut off one of his legs. Oh, God. But anyway, eventually he died about, 6 or 7 years later. Maybe somewhere around there. Maybe 10 years later. Well, my last day of school was me holding my buddy in his arms, sitting on the bench with his head in my lap, and me praying to God I could get him to not overdose. And it was my last day of high school. I have to tell you, that wasn't my most fond memory of my last day of high school. But Steven eventually passed away. We lost him, and it's still a thing. I mean, it's still something I think about a lot of times. From time to time, it'll hit me. I know it ruined my brother Joey for a couple of years and everybody else around us because he was such a big part of our crew in the neighborhood. But As it turns out, you get a little older, and basically for me, it turned out to be better him than me. Because look at how many of these scoundrels in my neighborhood did overdose or die or go to jail, and I didn't. And after a while, instead of it hurting your feelings, you start saying, wow, that wasn't me. I made it another year. I'm still alive. He went, but I didn't. You start getting like that, depending upon what neighborhood you live in. So, yeah, it was called methadone, Sean. Sean Hellman asked what was the stuff he took. It was called methadone. But here's what we find out. The night before, you cannot mix methadone with other barbiturates, other type of drugs. Depends on what type of drugs, but you can't mix it with any type of down sort of drugs. It does not mix. It makes you go into a coma. And the night before, him and my stupid ass brother did a whole bunch of Valiums together. And when they were going to drink that methadone, Valium, put you in a coma. They know this. I think he knew. That was him trying to break on through to the other side. I wanted to take my brother's spot so he wouldn't die. And what the hell, maybe I won't, but at least my brother, he'll be safe. So yeah, man, that was my last day of high school. wasn't the best day of high school. And imagine the spot I'm in. People start running into the park that after I made the phone call to find Steven, and everyone wants to know what happened. And God forbid I raise my hand and say, this happened with me, because he's not the witness to say that he brought it to me and I purposely made him give it to me so my brother wouldn't end up breaking on through, whatever that meant. Who would believe that? You know what I'm saying? And all they're going to think is that I gave this kid drugs and he overdosed, and what's going to happen to me? It was a bad day, a bad moment, bad couple of years, to be honest. I mean, that went on for quite some time. Never was, we went to go visit him all the time, but we could never get him out of his coma. Speaking of which, might as well keep this one going. Now that I'm thinking of friends in coma, there's one more quick story about this. Well, that was a really bad one, though. Steven, I love you forever, buddy. I had a kid that lived 2 doors away from me. We grew up together. He turned out to be a really tough lunatic kid. Oh, my God. This kid used to rob cars, amongst other things, for a living. And he used to like to rob cars and get chased by cops, because he wasn't the type of guy that gets caught. I kid you not. So, one day, I see him running past my house with cops chasing him on foot. I say, hey, there goes Dean Miller. Goes running past my house. That night, about 3 a.m, the story comes out, what happened. This lunatic steals a car in Brooklyn, takes it to Staten Island, so that when he gets to Staten Island, he's got a car from Brooklyn, nobody knows he's on Staten Island, and whatever, he can keep the car for a little while. So he steals the car, gets into a cop chase. They chase him to the Staten Island ferry. They're not sure he's on the ferry for sure, but he gets himself on the ferry, gets out of the car, jumps on the ferry. These cops decide, you know what, let's get on the ferry and look around for him. Halfway through the ferry ride, they see him. This lunatic leaps off the ferry. Now, he's been chased by cops. By the way, I didn't tell you, 2 cop cars are wrecked in the chase, taking him down to the ferry. So there's 2 wrecked cop cars. He gets on the ferry, he leaves the stolen car, jumps off the Staten Island ferry, and swims back to Staten Island when the cops go to grab him. Gets to Staten Island, breaks into a car at the Staten Island ferry, steals the car, gets into a cop chase. 3 more cop cars get destroyed that night. They finally catch him. They bring him to Marine Hospital. It was called Marine Hospital at the time, Bailey Seton Hospital, I think it's called now. They bring him to the 3rd floor, put him in handcuffs. Kid says, I got to go to the bathroom. They let him go into the bathroom. He rips the screen and the window off the 3rd floor window, jumps from the 3rd floor all the way to the bottom, doesn't get hurt, steals a car, and goes on another cop chase. This is all happening in one night. They finally caught him. 7 cars were destroyed. Cops were beat up, damage everywhere. Dean Miller was only one of his nights out. Just one of his nights out. He ended up in a coma as well. He ends up in a coma, motorcycle accident, laying in bed. I go visit him, we all go visit him, and he doesn't make a move. 2 years after laying that way, 2.5 years, he doesn't make a sound, he doesn't make a move. He sits up and goes, "Who? What am I doing in the hospital?" Yet he's exactly perfect. Just perfect. There is nothing wrong with this kid. And he comes back out and, starts doing his usual crime nonsense again. So that was Dean. What a lunatic he was. But what a fit. We were so excited. I tell you what, it was for our little world. It was a world famous car chase that one of our buddies was part of. You know what I mean? How many people get to tell a story like that and it's about him? So Sean Hellman says, "Oscar, you are a great storyteller. You need to go to schools and tell these stories. Maybe save some kids from doing drugs." Oh, I would love to go around and talk to kids about stuff like that. In fact, I have spent a lot of my life being coaches for baseball teams, and I love helping the young generation because that's our future. And if you get them right, wow, do we have a good future, right? And if you get them wrong and they're your own kids, they're basically, they're like the birds that just keep coming back to the nest. You know what I mean? They never leave. They're like homing pigeons. If you get it wrong, the kids never go anywhere and nothing ever happens and things are bad. But if we get the young generation right, wow, we've got a great future. So I do everything I can to help kids and animals and you name it. It's just what I do. I call it my broken side. I will do it for free. I'll do it until I go broke before I'd say no. It's just what I do. I help people. I always have. I help everybody around me. Anyone that comes in contact with me in some way ends up cherished if I can do that for them, including the traders around the world. So now that you've heard some of that insanity, unless some of my friends, family, or wife remind me of other stories that I should probably insert into this pre-floor stuff, next week we'll get back into the floor itself and what started happening from my 18th birthday forward, how I progressed, how I started writing rules, where the OMNI came from, why you shouldn't be a trader, why you should be a trader. There's all kinds of good stuff that's going to come our way. But again, as I mentioned in each one of these episodes, the anecdotes, the lessons that are involved in it, the accolades, you cannot imagine just how vast this is going to be. Now, I got to allude to this the other day, but then I had to, the camera actually shut itself off and we never finished. But the other day, I was trying to show you something. And what I was trying to say is, check this out. See what this says, Oscar's Travels, on here? I have traveled this globe like you cannot imagine. There's a little dot everywhere I've ever been, in every city or every state, in every country I've ever traveled to. And I promise you, 90% of these trips were me going to exchanges around the world and what happened at those exchanges, what happened in those companies, what happened in Brazil, how come I'm the type of person that when I fly away, anywhere I've ever flown to another country, the first thing I do is I locate the U.S. Embassy and I make sure I'm in a hotel within 2 blocks of running distance towards that U.S. Embassy, because there's been many countries around this world where I had to run to that embassy to save my life. And there's a lot of good stories coming at you with that as well. But I promise, half the places I've been to, if there was an exchange in that country or in that state, I went and visited the exchange. So lots of great stories will come your way. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode number 5. I don't think we get to do one on Monday because it's a holiday and the markets are closed, and I probably won't be doing this. We worked on AI all week long, artificial intelligence. I'm going to test it all afternoon. I can't wait to finish this so I can test my AI. I'm such a computer nerd. You have no idea how exciting this is for me. But I've enhanced what I am doing with AI to the point that it'll never, ever be taught to call an OMNI trade. But it's going to tell me what not to trade. That's good enough for me. Then I get to look at the trades that are good OMNIs. And, I got all kinds of good stuff going on like that. Just the beginning. I will open up the doors to AI and make it a bigger part of what we do when I see AI gets a bit smarter about understanding trading parameters. It's not as smart as you may think, the AI, when it comes down to trading. You have to know what to tell it, and you cannot leave it up to its own imagination. I've been working all week with it with my programmer, math genius Tony Tuzo. Thank you so much. But I've been working with it for a good 3 weeks on my own, preparing for Tony's visit this week. And I have noticed its capabilities and where it runs into trouble, and where the fact that garbage in, garbage out, way worse than computers. If you do not ask it correctly, you are going to get answers that you will believe, and they will not be the correct ones. So we're working on knowing its personality, if you will. All right, traders, thank you so much for tuning in. Episode 6 will come at you on Tuesday. Thank you. Please like and share these videos around town. Join me at livewithoscar.com in my live free trading room. Going to Live with Oscar is really simple. Let me just move this out of your way and I'll show you a little piece of it. You know, just go to livewithoscar.com. I'm not even going to move the camera and show you the whole site. It's easy stuff. You go to livewithoscar.com. Once you're there, you would literally just click OMNI chat. I would say log in because I'm already a member. You would say register if you're not. You click the daily chat, and that is it. You will literally be in a live trading room with me, and I'm in that live trading room right now, even though I'm doing this for you. I've got a live trading room going on right there in the background. Hello, everybody. And you can join me in this live trading room 24 hours a day when I'm not streaming on YouTube. This is my home. I hope to see you there, kids. Make sure you join me, and remember, stops are in. Emotions are out. Have a great weekend. Have a great Monday off. Enjoy your friends and family, your time off, and we'll see each other on Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in.